Welcome to this very special edition of the KAJ Masterclass Live, the show which ensures that you profit from your time spent here with experts, either through their industry insights, information, or simply learning from them. And today we have with us Jacintha Field. She is a family and child counselor, speaker, and founder of Happy Soul Kids, a platform teaching children emotional regulation through stories and athlete-led videos. And we'll be learning from Jacintha about her journey from trauma and single parenting to helping thousands of children manage story emotions through stories and play. Welcome to the show, Jacintha.
Thanks so much for having me, AJ. Thank you so much for having me.
You are welcome. Welcome to the show. Welcome to India in this online form, Jacintha. And I'm sure not just in India, but a lot of people across the globe will benefit from what we are going to talk right now. We'll talk about your journey, about healing kids while healing yourself. And before this, let's talk about a bit about your story, your journey, your background, so that people know who they are listening to.
So I've been on a healing journey for about 20 years. So about 6 years ago, I studied integrative nutrition and I learned how to be a holistic health coach. And I learned more about myself and what we put in our body, what we put on our body, etc. And then I went down a real healing journey. And then in 2019, 2020, we separated. My son started school and it was COVID all at the same time, and he was not okay. He was throwing bins around the house. He was running up the street. His emotions were so well beyond anything I could support at the time. So I started studying as much as I could to support my own child. And so we learn about emotions and feelings. And rather than me saying to him, hey, how you feeling? I mean, at that stage, he was 5 years old, so he couldn't actually express how he was feeling. So we drew circles. So I drew a little circle, 3 circles, and I'd say, can you put the face in here about how you're feeling? And so he'd put sad, angry, disappointed. And then that really helped him to relate to his own feelings and how he was feeling inside. And then during COVID, I saw that kids couldn't gain access to a psychologist. There was a 6 to 12 month wait. And with everything that I was doing with my own son, I knew that I could be of service. So I started studying to become a family and child counselor, art therapist. I've studied play therapy, and I'm a kids yoga teacher. So everything that I've done in private practice, I had a private practice in Torquay, which is in Melbourne on the Surf Coast, in Victoria, for 4 years. So I worked out the pain points that children and parents were facing. And there was a lack of disconnection within households, or there was some awareness or our own triggers and beliefs. And 30, 40, 50 years of parenting, unless you've learnt the tools and you've gone through it yourself, like you're just regurgitating different patterns that you've gone through with your own parents. And so I was in practice with one of the kids one day and I said, hey, do you want to do some meditation? He just rolls his eyes at me like, whatever, lady. I said, you know, LeBron James meditates, and instantaneously he wanted to meditate straight away. And that was the birth of Happy Souls Kids being more than just an online practice. We wanted to take it global because there's so many kids, millions of kids worldwide that need support and help, and parents as well. So I've now developed an app. It's called Happy Souls Kids, and we leverage the influence of athletes and their heroes to be able to teach kids the art of mindfulness and self-regulation. So all of the things that I teach in practice, we utilize those lessons to be able to teach them through their heroes. Because AJ, you see somebody win a gold medal and be like, oh my God, they're so talented, like they're so amazing, and a child would be so inspired by them. But what they don't see is the story and journey of how they got there. And so we tell those real, raw, authentic stories so a child can say, hey, there's nothing wrong with me. I'm just having a bad day. Or there's nothing wrong with me. I just lost a game. And so that lack of self-worth that they might feel, it helps them to feel seen and heard and valued if they know that their heroes feel the same way too.
Absolutely. Jacintha. So to understand, when you talk about children, and when you talk about emotional regulation, what does it mean? I mean, they are children. Why do they need to regulate their emotions? Aren't they too young for all this?
So I grew up in an age of eat concrete, harden up, you'll be right, get over it. And I wasn't seen, heard, or valued during that stage when I was younger as a child. I didn't have my feelings heard. I was just told to get over it. And those feelings inside of me manifested, and I was never able to express them and release them. And what happened is I turned to the negative influences like partying and alcohol for many years of my life because I couldn't express how I was feeling. because what I was taught, my parents were doing the best that they could, and most parents in that generation are. But what happened was when I had a feeling, rather than feeling that feeling, I was told to stop feeling that feeling. And so what happens with kids these days is so I'll give you an example. If a child leaves the house in the morning, they're shamed out the door, they're not ready to disconnect from their parents, they just have that big feeling inside, then they go to school and a teacher might not pick them in the class for something and it doesn't make them feel really good, and then they get to recess and they can't find any of their friends, then their best friend says to them, "Oh, I don't wanna be best friends with you anymore." Then they go back into the classroom and they get told off for something else, and there's all these other things that happen. They forget their lunch, and then they get to the end of the day and you pick them up and you're so excited to see them, and they might be like, "Oh, all you want is that comfort from your parent." And then they might be in a mood, or maybe the child just says, "Oh, I just want an ice cream to help me feel good today because I've had so many big feelings." And the parent would go, "No, you can't have the ice cream." And there's a massive explosion. And I'm sure many parents can relate to that when asking for an ice cream or chocolate or something like that. But it's actually not about the ice cream, it's about their entire day. So if we can meet children where they're at and say, "Hey, tell me about your day today," or maybe just after school, creating that distance between going home, going to a park, going to get a hot chocolate together, whatever it might be, create that connection so a child feels safe to say, "Mummy, somebody teased me today," or "Mummy, someone bullied me today and it didn't make me feel good." But if we constantly shut our kids down, then when it comes to that moment where they wanna connect with us, they're too scared to.
Absolutely. So,
Mm.
Jacintha, from my point of view, sitting in a different culture, different land altogether, I want to understand: do parents need to learn more, or do children need to learn more? On not only about this, but also about emotions and regulations and everything else.
I love this question. So my business is called Happy Souls Kids, but most of my work is actually with the parents. So children are children, and the problem is that we were told to be respectful and make sure that you hug everyone and do all of these things, and so we expect our children to be the same. But kids are so much more self-aware these days than they were back then. So we force them to do things that they're uncomfortable doing, and they'll push back with us. So it's really helping parents understand that it's okay for a child to have a voice. It's okay for them to have control. I'm really big on yes days where you just give the child, maybe it's a budget, or maybe that's, you ride your bike around the streets or something. Like, it doesn't need to be as extravagant as the movie Yes Day. If you haven't seen it, it's a good one. But that's yes days for kids is giving them control back in their life and giving them elements where they can say, "Hey, I'm seen here too. I'm important in the world as well." Because most of the world, kids are being told to they've been told what to do at school, they've been told what to do at home, often they're told what to do with their friends, and they never really have an element of some saying, "Hey, what do you want to do today?" And that was something that I did in practice with the kids. Is as soon as they walked in the front door, I would say, "Hey, I want every part of you here. Every part of you is welcome." And so it's helping parents understand that too, that it's okay for children to have a voice in the home. Give them a little bit of control. Like, what do you want to do on the weekend? And that helps kids really feel empowered, but it's so taboo because it's not how we were grown up. It's quite the opposite. They're like, "Oh, but no, they need to be respectful and they need to do all of these things." It's like, yeah, I know, but there's studies have shown that if you give your child 20 minutes of undivided attention, that's what they need, even 20 minutes. Obviously, we want a lot more, but if you can just give them 20 minutes with your phone being away, we don't want our phones near. It's not one of those things that you're thinking about your to-do list and doing Lego, which we all are guilty at times of doing. It's actually being completely and utterly present and going into their world. And sometimes it can be Nintendo. My son loves a game of Super Mario with me. And it's helping them go into their world as well. It's like us going into their world, which I think is just so important for children as well to have that voice.
Absolutely. So, for parents, when you talk about, that children don't need perfect parents, they need present ones. What
Yeah.
do you mean? Parents are there. Either of the parents, if both of them are together, they are always there most of the time with the kids after they are, before they go to school, come back from school, and after. What is it that is lacking in that? You said undivided, even 20 minutes will do. Where is it that the parents are going wrong? I think most of the parents they take decisions to to leave other work and be with their kids. And still, if they are not able to be with them, where is it that the mismatch is happening? Where is it that it's all getting lost in translation?
Really good question. I can get up in the morning and I can have my to-do list and I can be on my phone and I can be in the room with my son, but not there with him. My mind is on my to-do list. My mind is on my phone. My mind is on my work. And I'm not really there with him. And he notices. He will say to me, Mummy, I want your whole attention. I want your wholehearted, undivided attention. So just because we're there with our children, it doesn't mean that we're there with our children. If we're in another world and we're thinking about everything else that we have to do, whether it's the washing, the cleaning, the dinner, we're not there with our kids, and they can feel that. And we don't think that they can because they're just children, but they can. They have an intuitive feeling that you're not present with them or you're not listening. And it's really important that we are there with our kids and we help them to feel seen, heard, and valued. It's really important that our kids have that feeling of being seen, heard, and valued. But I would ask the question to parents of how often do you say no to your kids? We say no to our kids all the time. And sometimes do we need to say no? So it's having that wholehearted presentness. So just because you're in the room doesn't mean that you're there with them. If you are wholeheartedly with your child, your phone is away, your tech is away, the laundry's away, the dinner's away. If you are with your child wholeheartedly, that's what they need. They need that undivided attention, because otherwise what happens is we got on our phone, and my son does this all the time. If I'm on my phone, he will go straight to the computer or his iPad and go on his. And I will say, hey, that's not your iPad time. Or, can you come off your iPad? And he goes, well, you were on yours. And I'm like, yeah, fair enough. I was. And so what we're doing is actually mirroring to our kids. We're all addicted to our phones. I am too. We're addicted to them all the time. I didn't even turn my phone on the weekend until 2:00 in the afternoon. And I was amazed at how much space I had in my mind, even to play with my own child. There's a difference between being present and being present. And we want parents to be present with their kids. And that sometimes means doing the things, the Lego, going for a walk, or kicking a footy, or sorry, that's footy in Australia. Playing basketball together. And it really means being in there with them, not controlling them, just being there with them.
Absolutely. And who do the kids expect to be more around them? Is it the mother or father? If both are together, or is it equal? Let's look it from the children's perception. What is it that they want from their parents in terms of their companionship?
Of course. So children generally have a safe person. And that safe person is somebody that they go to and they feel really safe with. For instance, I am in a co-parenting relationship. We separated in 2019, and I am my son's safe person. So he is his wholehearted self around me because I've invited that part of him and I allow him to be himself. So if he has big moments or tantrums or emotional releases, I don't shame him for that. I just say, that's okay, mate. You had a big moment. It's a really great book called The Red Beast. And it shows that sometimes children have a red beast in them. And as do we as parents, we have a red beast as well. It's not just kids. And so it's really helping kids understand that their feelings are really valid. And what they're feeling inside is really important. And so it's helping children realize that sometimes they're angry, sometimes they're upset, sometimes they're disappointed. And it's just important that we see the child for who they are. And sometimes as parents, and this is a really big one that I see in practice, we might want our child to be a doctor. Now that child wants to be a bike rider, but we want to push our views onto the child. And then there's a big block with them all of the time because that's not what they want to be doing. So it's helping children make those decisions and see them from their perspective as well of what they want to do in their life. Because that therefore means that imagine somebody said to you, well, you have to go stand at that cashier for 24 hours, or you have to go be a gardener, or you have to be a doctor, or you have to be a surgeon, whatever it might be. And that's not what you want to do. How would it make you feel? Wouldn't make us feel really good, would it? Whereas we do it to our kids unknowingly all the time. And then
Absolutely.
we're wondering why they're misbehaving or why they're not listening, or it's because we're not seeing them for who they are.
Absolutely, Jacintha. It's strange, isn't it? We all grow up and we forget how it feels like to be a kid, and that is where we find that we are behaving differently than what we would have wanted for ourselves when we were ourselves kid. But I want to understand the big moment and big emotions that you talk about. Why there is so much of talk about these things nowadays? Was it the same when you were a kid about these big emotions and big moments, or is it these terms have been coined only recently?
It's a very good question. I think that the emotions have always been there, but they were just shunned. They were shut down. And so, um, as I said, my dad is. It's actually quite beautiful. Like, he was very eat concrete, harden up, you'll be right. My mum was very open and loving and understands and listens, and they were like chalk and cheese. But my dad is such a beautiful grandfather to my son, more than he was to me when he was growing up, because he was always working. And I think we're seeing that more and more and more with our own parents and our grandparents, to be able to be there for our kids. I think the emotions have always been there. We just see our kids in a much different light now, and we're able to express to them and let them express their emotions. Like, if you're feeling angry, we don't want them to stop the anger. We don't want them to hit their brother or sister or somebody near them, and we don't want to let that out in an angry way. But we want to allow that emotion to release from their body, because otherwise, like me, you get to your teenage years and you mask it with as many things as you possibly can to push them down. Whereas if we allow a child's emotions to come up, they're gone. It's gone. And so then that doesn't affect them later on in life. So emotions have always been there. There's a lot more separation these days. I work with a lot of separated couples and families. The transitions going from one household to the other is tough. That's tough for a kid. Even when we separate as an adult, it's hard to accept or to understand. But when it happens to a child, they're just like, well, why can't my mum and dad be together? So I was talking about before with a safe person. A child will have a safe person, and that could be the mum or that could be the dad. We don't know. It's whoever that child chooses. But that child at school could put on a rubber band and be all happy and lovely and amazing, and then they get home and it's like the dinosaur comes out. And you're like, whoa. Or when they go to their grandparents and the grandparents say, oh my gosh, they were just perfect little angels. And then you get them back and you're like, whoa, what happened here? And that's what it means to be a safe person, where you don't judge that child for how they're feeling. They know that you can hold their big feelings and emotions, and they know the person that can hold them. They also know the person that can't. So if that person can't hold those emotions, such as saying things like eat concrete, harden up, you'll be right, or stop crying, which is a really big one. My son will often say to me about other people in his life, like, they just don't understand like you do, mummy. So I just do whatever they say because it's easier. And so I teach my son to be able to stand up for himself with different people and say, hey, that makes me feel uncomfortable. And I think it's really important that as parents, we are teaching and mirroring that behavior to our children. So if he says something to me that makes me feel uncomfortable, like, I hate you or something like that, I might say, oh, that really hurts my heart when you say that. And I think we just got a different way of relating to kids these days that we just never had before. And we've got also much deeper connections than we had before as well.
Absolutely, absolutely, Jacinta. One more thing I want to understand is that nowadays these are challenging times as individuals, as couples, as parents, as partners, as family, even for the kids. And a lot of times, things are not so good. People separate for their obvious their own happiness, so that everyone is happy. In that situation, if a kid is there, when all these people are trying to heal themselves in a way from different things, how do they interact with the kid and make sure that they're healing their own journey of healing, or whatever traumas that they had faced is not coming in the way of their interaction with their own kids? How does that work? You would know better. You interact with so many kids, Jacinth.
I do. And when I separated, it felt like a semi-trailer smashed into me, and I was smashed into 1,000 million pieces. I was absolutely broken. It was brutal. I one day had a family and the next day I didn't. And it hasn't been the nicest of separations. It was very much so. One day you're my partner and the next day you're not. And it's been like that for 5 years. So I've had to learn to process my own feelings and emotions. And that was tough. During COVID, when I'm broken, my son's broken, and, we had COVID. It's like, it was so big. But I had to find ways to be able to support myself. I was doing a daily sadhana. I was very lucky to have a group of women that I had connecting me, and it was a daily sadhana of meditation, breathwork, tantra, and mantras as well that we did on a daily basis, and that helped me heal. The other thing that we did was move to the beach. My soul was craving the beach. I needed to be near nature. Like, I had to be in nature. We were in Melbourne, which is like what I call a concrete playground. There's a lot of buildings everywhere. And so for years before we separated, my soul is just like, please bring me to the beach, because it wasn't just that separation I was dealing with. I was in a domestically violent relationship for 15 years of my life. Narcissism, you've got gaslighting, you've got coercive control, all of these things that I didn't even know what they were until I started healing. A smear campaign, that's been big with me, with quite a few people actually. So all of these things that have come up, I'm just like, whoa, it's like my whole life smashed into me at the same time, and I had to deal with my own stuff. And I think it's just about getting through the day and saying, whoa, did I survive today? But what did I do? And give yourself a little fist pump, like, yes, I did it. And I think you just got to take it one day at a time when you go through these situations. You can't look too far in advance. You just have to get through the day, make sure that you're okay, and celebrate your success. Also looking at how far have I come rather than how long have I got to go. Look at how far that you've come in life and celebrate those little wins, because it's really important that we focus on what's happened in our life in positive ways. Because if we constantly focus on the negative, you're going to stay in that bubble forever. When I separated, I had a ring on my finger that said, I am enough. And I wore that ring every single day. And every time I felt disempowered, I would look at that ring and I would say to myself, I'm enough. And that happens a lot in separations, not just with women, also with men, where you just feel like the lowest form of yourself. It's tough. Like, that's really tough. And it's every day, it's like the light is at the end of the tunnel, but I wouldn't change my circumstance. Absolutely not. It has made me who I am today, and I am so much stronger. I needed to learn boundaries. I needed to learn to stop people pleasing. I needed to learn who I was. And this entire situation that's happened, although it's what I call the mud, when you're stuck in the mud, you can't go anywhere. You've got to go through it. And it's actually taught me to really stand in my power as a human being. And I'm so grateful for that. I'm so grateful for the opportunity to be able to stand into who I am. But that wouldn't have happened if I didn't separate. So it's that moment of sitting in and saying, okay, this is big. This is big. And somebody says, a friend of mine says, it's happening. It's happening to you. It's not happening to you. It's happening for you. And it's like, when you're in the mud, you can't, like, that saying is, you just want to get so angry. But it does. We're being taught many different ways and to show up as our best selves. And for us to be the best parent that we can be, we need to work on us first. Otherwise, when your child disrespects you, which they're not, they're just being kids, when you feel disrespected, go back into your childhood. Where is it that you felt disrespected in your own childhood? Because they're the triggers that start to come up all of the time. And when we start to recognize, I've got big stuff happening here, it's actually us and not really our kids. Kids are just being kids. They're loud, they're messy. That's who they are. Why do we stop the mess? Why is the mess such a big deal in practice with kids? Like, I'm known as the slime lady. We make slime all day because it helps with self-regulation. Whereas a lot of parents will come in and be like, I don't want that mess in my house. But the healing is in the messiness, and that's just both for adults and for children.
Absolutely. You work with a lot of parents, and some of them may have also separated in and still working together. What is it that, and some separations are not, as good as they should be, a bit messy in that sense. What is it that you suggest to such people in terms of, making sure that their kids get the best from both of them, whereas they both did not have a very good separation? What is the best advice for such parents here?
There
Jacintha?
is so much resentment when it comes to separation. Kids are used as pawns all the time during the separation. And I just want to say to parents this: if you are not nice to your other parent, your own child will suffer. So you might be really angry for whatever reason that something's happened to your ex-partner, for whatever, whether it's the house or whether there's something happened or whether there's infidelity or whatever it might be, whether you hold that or whether the other person holds that. If you are going to push your other parent to the limits, your child is going to suffer. And I need you to really understand that. It is not the child's fault that you separated. There's so many things that are happening at the moment with things like plant medicines. People are going to all these plant medicines and they're breaking up families and they're coming back and they're like, I'm so empowered because I want to live a different life. For you to live a different life, it is completely okay. You are absolutely within your rights to make that decision. And if you don't want to be with your ex-partner, that is completely okay. But you can't break up with your kids. So your kids need you more than ever during a separation process. They need you to be there. A child needs both a mother and a father, or a father and father, or a mother and mother, or a carer. They need you during that time the most because they already feel abandoned by the separation. So if you're not showing up for your child, then that feels double abandonment for them. And it takes a long time for that child to get over that because that child is not blaming you. That child is blaming themselves. And we don't want that. As for, as long as it's safe, now I know that there are some circumstances that it isn't safe, but as long as it is safe, it is in the best interest of the child to have a relationship with both parents because essentially that is the mother or that is the father. When it comes to custody, I mean, that's something that you can work out between you. But putting the child first is just so important, is so important during the entire process. Working on yourself is so important during the entire process. Moving into another relationship quickly can be a lot for everybody, including yourself. We need time to process. We need time to deal with our own triggers. In a relationship breakdown, it is not sometimes it is. I'm not saying it's not, but most of the time it takes two to tango. In the sense that even if you stayed in a relationship, the question is, why did you stay when you knew that you shouldn't be there? So it does take two to tango in a relationship. I understand that there's some extreme circumstances, but we need to work out what roles we all play in those in that breakdown as well, because it's important that we recognize the part that we played. It's also really important that we spend time on ourselves and we have time to heal, and that could be different modalities. But just put your kids first. It's so important to put your kids first.
Right. And amidst all these things, what should the child know? What his or her role should be as a child? And at what age? What is there a cutoff age for a child to have any role in terms of acting in a certain way, reacting in a certain way, showing emotions in a certain way, or not showing? Until that age, everything is fine for them.
Children are little adults. So, AJ, have you ever had a tantrum?
Pardon?
Have you ever had a tantrum? Have you ever had a big emotion?
Okay, yeah. I can remember so many things from my
Yeah.
child.
And so we never stop having feelings and emotions. It's just because we get older and we say, okay, we're 15 now, we're going to stop feeling. That's just not how it goes. It's not how it goes. We don't just turn off our feelings at a certain age. We have them forever. But if you do the hard yards when they're younger, if you really feel into a child's emotions when they're young, then when they're older, then they're able to process them better. So then they'll say, you know what, Mum, I've had a really hard day. I need a hug. Or, hey, can we go hug a tree? Or can we go outside? Or can I just scream into a pillow? Or, it might be rock climbing. It might be playing basketball, whatever it might be. They just learn different ways. It is harder when they're younger. This journey is not easy. It is hard when they're young, but when they get older and when they get to, the teenage years, when they start to explore different things like alcohol, we want them to feel like we're the safe place. Like if my son comes to me and says to me, "Mummy, blah, 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 blah happened," I say, "Thanks so much for telling me, mate. Thanks so much for being honest." I don't shame him. If it's a situation that we need to talk about together, we'll do that. But the more that we shame our kids, what happens is then they start to trust us as a safe person and they don't want us to come near. So the more that we can show up for our kids and be with them and say, "Oh, tell me about what happened. How did that make you feel? Or was there anything that you would do differently in that circumstance?" The softer we can lean into them, the better. And that's the same in co-parenting. That's the same in separation. That's the same as a child. You've got neurodiversity. It's 1 in 10. All these neurodiverse kids at the moment, they just need love and compassion. But that compassion and self-love starts with ourselves. And you asked before what parents can be doing. The first question I ask a parent is, what are you doing for you? Is your day waking up, looking after the dog, going, getting your kids food, finishing, going to work, coming home, taking them to extracurricular activity, coming home, making dinner, and then that's it? That's your whole day and you go to bed? Of course you're going to get grumpy. Of course you're going to get resentful. You absolutely are, because you're not doing anything for you. So making sure that you have your time, and it's not just, it could even be starting with just a 5-minute cup of tea in the morning before everyone gets up. But making sure that you are doing something for yourself is so important, and that's what we call self-love.
Absolutely, Jacintha. There is so much to learn about all this from you, and I'm sure a lot of people, a lot of parents, a lot of parents of kids bringing their kids would want to connect with you, with Happy Soul Kids, and get your help. Also invite you for speaking and so many things that you do as a child counselor. What is the best way for them to do so?
Okay, so we have Happy Souls Kids. We have our Instagram, which we're just about to launch our socials. We've got a really cool platform that's gamified for children. We've got some beta testers. If you'd like to be a beta tester, get in contact with me. It's only open for another week, so I don't know when this is going to go up. But yeah, just send me an email. Website is www.happysoulskids.com. My personal one is Jacintha Field. Now it's a bit of a tongue twister. It's like Jacintha and Samantha put together. So it's JACINTHAFIELD. And that's my Instagram page. And so it's getting in contact, and yeah, just I'm very open. I do like to help as many families as possible. And I think with all the traumas that I've had in my life, and I haven't even spoken about nearly all of them here, I can relate to people, and I can understand that we all go through really hard times in life, and having compassion, first of all, for myself, and that allows me to have compassion for other people and realize that they're just having a moment or they're having a hard time, and that's okay.
Absolutely. With this, it's a wrap on this very special edition of the KAJ Masterclass Live. Thank you so much indeed for joining us.
Thank you.